Have you ever stopped to think that a lot of what you feel today started when you were just a child? That this fear of opening up, this urge to hide from the world, or even that suffocating perfectionism may not be part of your personality, but the result of something much deeper. That's right. Today's topic is heavy, but necessary. What happens to someone who never felt safe as a child? I'll tell you right now, this affects everything, from how you love to how you see yourself in the mirror. So if you've ever wondered why you carry so much guilt, fear, or a constant sense of not being enough, stay with me until the end. Because this video might be the first step in breaking a cycle you didn't even know existed. The first thing we need to understand is what it really means to feel safe. And no, it's not just about having food on the table and a roof to sleep under. Emotional safety in childhood is when a child knows they can make mistakes and still be loved. When they're free to express fear, anger, joy, without punishment or ridicule. When they are seen, heard, and respected as a developing human being. When this doesn't happen, what forms isn't just a wound, it's a structure, an emotional lens through which that person will view everything. Relationships, challenges, criticism, even compliments. And this is how childhood silently shapes your adult life, even when you swear you've gotten over it. Growing up without that emotional foundation is like building a skyscraper on quicksand. On the outside, everything might look fine. Job, relationships, social life. But inside, everything is shaking. Anxiety shows up in the smallest situations. You feel a desperate need to please, to justify yourself, to apologize for existing. Because you learned long ago that love was conditional. You had to be perfect, invisible, or always useful to be accepted. And that turns into an automatic pattern. You self-sabotage before being rejected. You go silent before being humiliated. You run away before being abandoned. Because the world, for someone who never felt safe, is a minefield. And there's another point that hurts even more. The inability to trust. Not just in others, but in yourself. People who grew up in unpredictable environments, where adults changed moods without warning, where affection came with fear, learned that the world is dangerous, that love is risky, that letting your guard down means exposing yourself to pain. So even when they meet someone who offers real safety, something inside them doesn't believe it. It feels too good to be true. And then they sabotage it. They start arguments for no reason, test the other person's limits, push people away when they should be getting closer. All because their brain has learned to associate safety with unpredictability and peace. With boredom or threat, their ability to deal with emotions also takes a hit. Instead of feeling anger and expressing it in a healthy way, they swallow it. Instead of crying, they distract themselves. Instead of asking for help, they isolate. Because back then, when feeling was dangerous, the brain learned to shut down. Survival came before authenticity. And this turns into an emotional addiction. The body gets used to being in constant alert. Even when there's no real danger, the nervous system stays activated, ready to fight or flee. And this ongoing hypervigilance not only drains you, it stops you from truly connecting with the present. You live in alert from the past, afraid of the future. Now here's one of the cruelest consequences. The inability to see yourself with compassion. People who never felt emotionally safe as children often have a brutal inner critic. Nothing they do is good enough. They blame themselves for everything, constantly doubt themselves, compare themselves endlessly. And worse, they think this self-judgment is necessary. That if they let their guard down, they'll become weak, vulnerable, rejected. But that internal voice, it's not yours. It's an echo of the voices you heard as a child. The demands, the silences, the absences. And understanding that is the first step to freeing yourself from that invisible prison. Relationships, that's another battlefield. People who never felt emotionally safe live in a constant dilemma. They want closeness, but are terrified of it. This creates relationships full of extremes. Either they give too much and lose themselves, or shut down completely to avoid getting hurt. They might cling to toxic people because chaos feels familiar, or reject healthy connections because they don't know how to deal with calm. It's like the brain says, this feels strange, so it must be dangerous. And so, childhood patterns repeat. Not because you want them to, but because it's what you learned as normal, and it doesn't stop in the mind. The body remembers too. constant muscle tension, insomnia, chronic pain, panic attacks. All of that can be the result of an unsafe childhood. Because the body doesn't forget what the mind tries to ignore. It keeps signaling that something is unresolved, that there's trauma asking to be seen, understood, and most of all, cared for. And that care starts in the present, with small but powerful choices. Therapy, self-care, healthy boundaries, honest conversations. Every step on that path is a chance to rewrite your story. One line at a time. But hold on. This video isn't meant to bring you down or to blame anyone. It's to show you that there is a real reason behind what you feel. That you're not weak, dramatic, or broken. You're someone who survived, often in silence. An environment that failed to give you the most basic thing, emotional safety. And just the fact that you're here, listening to this, shows that a part of you wants more, wants to heal, wants to live differently. The good news is, that's possible. It's with awareness, with time, and most importantly, with kindness. Kindness to who you were, who you are, and who you're becoming. If you're related to any of this, drop a comment below. I deserve to feel safe. Let's create a space in the comments where people can recognize themselves. No shame, no judgment. If this video touched you, if it made sense to you, subscribe to the channel. Here we talk about everything no one ever had the courage to explain to you. Together, we turn pain into clarity, trauma into awareness, the past into strength. Because you deserve, and you can. Feel safe for the first time. And listen, I know it may feel strange to think of emotional safety as something you can learn as an adult. But the truth is, our brain is plastic. It can change. Even after everything you've been through, it's still possible to build a new sense of internal safety. And you know how that starts? With validation. When you stop criticizing yourself for feeling too much, for being sensitive, for needing affection or space. When you understand that all these reactions are completely normal responses from someone who learned to survive the only way they could, healing begins when you soothe yourself, instead of punishing yourself. And even though it may seem small, that's revolutionary. One fundamental point is, you don't have to heal alone. Solitude was necessary back then when no one understood you. But today, you can, and should, build safe connections. Whether it's with a therapist, with true friends and support groups, or even through content like this that helps you reflect. We may get hurt in relationships, but we also heal in relationships. It doesn't have to be perfect. Emotional safety doesn't require the absence of flaws, but the presence of affection. And that you can build every day with small gestures. A firm no, a truthful yes, a quiet moment to listen to your body. These teach your nervous system that now there is safety. Even in the little things. Here's something people often miss. Self-destructive behavior is often just your subconscious trying to protect you. That's right. If you self-sabotage, procrastinate, or get involved with people who hurt you, it's not because you like to suffer. It's because some part of you believes that if you cause the pain first, it'll hurt less than being surprised by it. It's like your brain says, better I ruin this now than wait for the world to do it to me again. That's emotional survival. And understanding that changes everything, takes away the weight of guilt, and opens the door to compassion. You're not broken. You're conditioned. And what was learned can be unlearned. And that's where self-responsibility becomes a turning point. But hold on, don't confuse it with blame. It's not about blaming yourself for what you feel, but taking ownership of what you can do now. It's when you stop expecting others to validate your pain and begin validating it yourself. When you stop repeating patterns blindly and start observing your choices with curiosity instead of judgment. That's the beginning of a new story, one where you stop being a prisoner of the past and start becoming the author of your own script. A script where trauma doesn't disappear, but no longer controls the wheel. And maybe you're wondering, okay, but how do I actually do that? Well, it starts with presence. Watch your triggers. When something makes you react strongly, instead of punishing yourself, try asking, which part of me is reacting right now? Is it the adult or the scared child? That one question changes everything. It pulls you out of autopilot and into a place of choice. Another step is building a minimum self-care routine. It doesn't have to be an emotional spa day, but it could be drinking coffee mindfully, walking while listening to music, journaling your feelings. These things teach your body that now there's safety, even in stillness. And of course, speak about what happened, even if it's in a whisper, even if it's just to yourself. Name what you felt, what was missing, what hurt, because what isn't expressed festers inside. And when you give it a name, you give it form. And when it has form, you can look at it, tend to it, and eventually let it go. Will it take time? Maybe. Will it be a straight path? Not even close. But every time you choose to listen instead of silence yourself, to comfort instead of punish yourself, you're reprogramming your emotional foundation. You're saying to yourself, now I'm the adult I needed back then. That is one of the most powerful and beautiful things a human can do. And to finish, I want to leave you with an image. Imagine a house that was built on a fragile foundation. For years, it stood, but with cracks in the walls. Doors that didn't close properly. Windows that rattled with every gust of wind. One day that house starts being renovated. Not from the outside in, but from the foundation up. Brick by brick, the base is reinforced. It's messy, yes, uncomfortable, for sure. But little by little, that once shaky structure becomes a safe, solid living home. That house is you. And this whole process of revisiting the past, embracing your wounds, and making conscious choices in the present is your renovation. It doesn't matter how many cracks you have. What matters is your decision to rebuild. With care, with patience, and with courage. And that courage doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it shows up in a simple, today I'm not going to be so hard on myself. Or a quiet, I'm not responsible for everyone else's emotions. Or even a brave, I deserve peace, even if I don't have it all figured out. These small phrases become mantras, shields, and bridges. They start a new internal dialogue, one where you're no longer the enemy. Because look, you've fought so hard just to survive. Now it's time to learn how to live without walking on eggshells, without expecting punishment for being who you are, without carrying guilt that was never yours. And the first step is recognizing that what happened to you doesn't define who you are. If your childhood wasn't safe, that doesn't mean your adulthood has to be the same. You can, and you deserve to, create new references. Build relationships that respect you. Build routines that nurture you. Look in the mirror and not just see the marks of what you lacked, but the features of who you're becoming. And if you still feel like you're in the middle of the chaos, that's okay. Healing doesn't need speed, it needs presence. And if you've stayed with me through this hour-long journey, it means part of you already knows you deserve more. And that part is the beginning of your freedom. So before you click away, I want to ask you for one last thing, but it's for you. Subscribe to the channel right now. Hit the bell. Because here, every week, you'll find not only deep reflections, but practical tools, supportive content, and most importantly, a space where you can be yourself without fear. Leave a comment sharing what part of this video resonated with you most. Share this with someone who also carries this invisible weight. And remember, you're not alone. Together, we build bridges where there were once only walls. Yeah. Because your pain may have been quiet, but your healing will echo loudly. Yeah. And I'll be right here every week to remind you of that. See you in the next video, and until then, take care. You deserve it.